So if you're one of the millions, literally millions, of dedicated learners trying to get fluent in English, and you're doing it mostly on your own, at home, we get it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this weird mix, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
excitement because there's so much stuff out there. YouTube, apps, podcasts, books, everything.
It's overwhelming.
Totally overwhelming. You're almost paralyzed by, well, what the experts call the paradox of choice. Like, where do you even start today?
That really is the modern learner's big challenge, isn't it? Access isn't the problem anymore. We're drowning in information.
Right.
The bottleneck is figuring out how to actually use it, how to make it stick consistently.
Yeah.
You could spend, I don't know, a whole afternoon reading grammar rules, maybe about the third conditional or something. But then how do you make sure that clicks, that you can actually pull it out in a real conversation tomorrow without, freezing up?
Exactly. That's the gap.
And that's precisely what our source material for this deep dive focuses on, bridging that gap, moving beyond just watching videos or passively reading towards actual, demonstrable progress.
Yeah.
Automaticity almost.
Yes. Our listeners don't need another vocab list, right? They need a real roadmap, something for the long haul, for integrating it.
A sustainable path.
We've been digging into this fantastic guide, really tailored for people studying English by themselves.
Yeah.
And the core idea is pretty profound, actually. It's not about grinding harder or studying for hours and hours. It's about making these smarter, kind of targeted tweaks to your everyday life, your habits.
Tiny adjustments often.
So our mission today is really to pull out these practical, totally achievable techniques, ways to make learning English feel, well, natural, maybe even enjoyable.
That's the goal.
And ultimately effective. So we're looking at a guide that tells you how to shift your whole perspective, really make English just a seamless part of your day, not homework you dread.
And what's really interesting is how the sources just immediately challenge that common idea, that you need these intense scheduled study blocks every single day.
Right, that pressure.
Yeah, they just pivot completely. It's all about integration and, crucially, the psychological stuff that actually helps you keep going.
The mindset.
Exactly. The thinking is, if we can fundamentally change how you, the listener, interact with English on this tiny micro level, like multiple times an hour, then the big picture, the fluency, that'll sort of follow naturally. It builds up.
Okay, let's jump right into that core idea then.
Yeah.
It's summed up perfectly in their tip 1.
Yeah.
You don't need to study English all day long.
No.
You just need to find ways to, live in English more.
That's it. Live in it.
And that feels like a huge psychological shift, doesn't it? Because it just lifts that mental weight of, okay, time for homework.
Totally. It takes the effort label off.
It changes it from effort to just utility.
Yeah.
Something you use.
Yeah, and that's about minimizing what psychologists call cognitive friction. When something feels like study, it feels hard, you put it off, you have to force yourself. But when it's just part of your lifestyle, it becomes automatic. Like you don't think about making coffee, you just do it. Or checking the weather, same idea.
Right.
And the sources give these incredibly specific, things you can do right now to weave English into how you operate daily.
And they seem so simple, almost deceptively simple. But the effect, when they add up.
Yeah, it's huge.
Compounding effect, yeah.
Okay, so the first one. It's a classic. Everyone's heard it, but maybe not why it works so well. Change your phone language to English.
Right. Seems minor, maybe even annoying at first.
Yeah.
But let's break it down. Think about how many times a day you glance at that phone, interact with it.
Oh gosh, hundreds, maybe more.
Probably thousands if you count every little notification check. So immediately you're forcing yourself to see these really common commands, terms, labels, all in English.
And that constant, very low stakes exposure It's incredibly valuable because it targets utility vocabulary. You're not learning some obscure word for, I don't know, a type of medieval helmet.
Right, not random stuff.
No, you're learning the language you need to operate things. Settings, delete, reply, send message. When you see those in English dozens, hundreds of times a day, they stop being abstract words you memorize from a list. They become tools you use to get things done in your digital life. It sort of bypasses the learning center and goes straight to functional recognition.
Okay, but I can hear some listeners thinking, wait, if I'm just a beginner or maybe intermediate, won't changing my phone language just make me super frustrated when I need to find something quickly? Like, couldn't that actually turn me off English?
That's a really fair question. It's a legitimate concern, but the sources actually argue the opposite tends to happen.
Oh, no.
Because the context is so constant and repetitive, like the little icon for your camera app or your Notes app, that doesn't change, right? So your brain learns the English words through that visual cue, through the action you take, not just by trying to translate it in your head. The context makes it stick.
Okay.
Now, the sources do suggest maybe easing into it, perhaps change a few key apps first, see how that feels, before you flip the switch on the whole operating system.
Right, gradual immersion.
But the core idea is it forces you to operate in English. It makes the language a practical necessity, not just some academic subject you pick up and put down.
Got it. And this integration, it goes beyond just the phone, right? The guide talks about watching your favorite shows.
Yeah, but with a specific tweak that often gets missed.
Which is?
Use English subtitles while listening to the English audio, not subtitles in your native language. English audio, English text.
Okay. Why is that pairing so important?
Because it's all about bridging that gap between the sound and the written word. If you're watching something you already love, something you basically know by heart, your favorite movie, that sitcom you've seen a million times, you're not mentally overloaded trying to follow the plot. You already know what's happening.
Right. Frees up brain space.
Exactly. So all your focus goes to matching the sounds you're hearing with the words you're seeing on the screen. It reinforces listening comprehension and spelling at the same time, makes your listening much more active, less passive.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. This next technique from the source, it's maybe the most private, but potentially the most powerful.
Let me guess. The internal practice.
Yes. Consciously thinking in English while you're doing just like mundane stuff. Cooking dinner, cleaning the bathroom, walking the dog, even just spacing out and daydreaming.
This is the ultimate self-directed practice, isn't it? It's totally free, requires zero setup, zero potential embarrassment.
Yeah.
Thinking is instant, so if you're making dinner, you can just narrate it in your head. Okay, first I should have chopped those onions. Brad, forgot again. Okay, dicing them now. Really wish I'd remembered to buy cilantro. That kind of internal chatter forces you to access vocabulary, sure, but also more complex grammar, right? In real time.
I want to zero in on that forcing aspect. Because when you're narrating internally like that, you can't really cheat, can you? If you're thinking about something that happened yesterday, you have to find a past tense verb.
Exactly.
If you're thinking about something you wish were different or regret, you're automatically reaching for those modal verbs, the should haves, the if onlys, the I wish I coulds.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It pushes your language use beyond just simple present tense description. It demands you retrieve time words, prepositions, conjunctions, all the little connecting bits. You're basically simulating a conversation with yourself. You're the speaker and the instant self-corrector.
You're turning studied rules into active, usable templates in your head.
That's a great way to put it.
So, zooming out, the whole goal of this lifestyle integration, this first big section, the moment English becomes part of your routine, your inner voice, your fun interface, it just stops feeling like scheduled work. And that, the sources really hammer this home. That's when the real, consistent, sustainable progress actually starts.
Exactly right. It's about building habit loops. Homework feels like effort. It's unpredictable when you'll actually do it. Lifestyle stuff minimizes effort through repetition. It becomes automatic.
Yeah.
And that flows perfectly into the second part of this foundation, which is tip 4. How to create your own English environment, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Right. What if you're somewhere English is like never spoken outside a classroom? The guide is super clear. You can still build an immersive world. You have to, really.
And this is where digital media becomes your virtual embassy, maybe.
I like that.
You're encouraged strongly to actively follow English-speaking content creators, read comment sections in English, join online groups or forums in English about whatever you're into, hobbies, games, whatever.
Yeah.
This creates what we could call digital immersion. The source really emphasizes this. Deliberately flood your feeds, social media, gaming chats, online interactions, flood them with English.
Okay.
Because that forces you to engage with authentic, informal language, the kind real fluent speakers use every single day. And crucially, you're seeing it in context. You see slang, jokes, arguments, rhetorical questions, all the messy, real stuff that textbooks often clean up or just leave out.
And that point about reading the comment sections, so important and so often overlooked. It's not just about watching the main video or we're reading the article, right?
No, it's about seeing the reaction. How do people agree? How do they disagree, sometimes strongly? How do they express surprise or share excitement? That fast-paced back and forth teaches you abbreviations, contractions, the real flow of conversation faster than almost anything else.
You learn the rhythm of interaction.
Absolutely. And the powerful result, the source material says, is you start thinking, reacting, expressing yourself in English first, even if it's just typing in a chat window. Those low-pressure online spaces are key.
So that's the goal of immersion, basically achieved right from your desk.
Exactly. And the guide nails it with this analogy. It's like living abroad without leaving your room.
That's perfect.
It really sums up that total integration you can get through these specific digital actions. The friction to communicate starts to disappear because you're talking about something you care about, a game, a hobby, news cool. The language becomes secondary to the shared interest, and that's always the secret to making fluency feel natural.
Okay, so Section 1 lays that absolute groundwork. Shift English from being the separate subject you study to just a functional tool you use constantly, every day.
Right. So once you sort of set up that environment, the next challenge is fueling it, right? The right kind of raw material.
Okay.
Which brings us to Section 2, focusing on tip 2. And this one, honestly, it's probably the most neglected step for a lot of really ambitious learners, especially the ones who are super eager to just start talking.
Rushing into speaking. Yeah, I see that.
The sources call listening the secret weapon. They insist on massive amounts of input before you try to produce a high volume of output.
The secret weapon. I like that. Okay, so the guide is really clear. Listening is the bedrock, the crucial foundation. It speaks directly to like the brain science of it all, right? Before you can actually produce English that sounds natural, that has the right rhythm, your brain just needs to hear it a lot, like constantly.
The sheer quantity and the consistency, that's what's key here. It's not about listening to one perfect grammar lesson video and checking it off the list.
No.
It's about this constant, widespread exposure. It's like you're priming the auditory pathways in your brain, tuning them.
Tuning them? How so?
Well, the brain needs to get accustomed to the specific music of English, the cadence, the way stress falls on certain syllables, the rise and fall of intonation. It's a distinct melody.
Okay, the music of the language.
And the sources suggest really accessible ways to get this massive input. They recommend things like English podcasts, YouTube channels you enjoy, maybe even just having like background conversations playing while you're doing chores.
Okay, having it on in the background.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question, maybe a critique I've heard from learners. doesn't that just risk training your brain to tune English out, turning it into meaningless noise?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Like, I've definitely put on a podcast in another language while cleaning, and then suddenly realized 20 minutes later, I haven't consciously processed a single word. Does the guide address that risk?
It does, and it's nuanced about it. They admit, look, 100% active, focused comprehension all the time. That's impossible and frankly exhausting.
Right.
But the main goal of this massive listening phase isn't necessarily dictionary definition understanding of every single word. It's more about rhythmic and pattern recognition.
Ah, okay. So even if I'm not consciously following every sentence.
Exactly. Your conscious mind might be focused on, scrubbing the floor or driving the car, but your subconscious brain, it's still processing that stream of sound. It's mapping the rhythm, noticing where words tend to flow together, spotting common word pairings.
Patterns. Tell me more about those patterns. We focus so much on individual words. What's the brain learning passively there?
It's learning what linguists call connected speech, how real speech actually sounds. Your brain learns where native speakers naturally swallow sounds. That's called elision, where sounds blend together at word boundaries assimilation. And crucially, where syllables get reduced, squashed down, especially the super common ooh sound, the schwa in unstressed syllables.
Right, the schwa, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. If you only learn English word by word, very carefully pronounced from a book, you'll never recognize those same words when they're flying by in fast connected speech. So consistent listening helps your ears get fluent in the sounds, not just the definitions. It helps you tell the difference between similar sounds that might otherwise just blur together.
That distinction is so important. Understanding the actual mechanics of how people speak. We often focus on vocab, but if you can't actually hear the rhythm and the reductions, you'll just get lost trying to understand fast, natural speech, even if your grammar knowledge is perfect on paper.
Totally. The listening phase is about internalizing the song of the language, and this leads us straight to the key analogy the source material uses. It's brilliant for explaining the patience you need here.
Okay, what's the analogy?
The sources say, think of it like music you don't learn to sing before you've heard the song 100 times.
Ooh, that's good. That really clicks.
Yeah. It immediately resets your expectations, doesn't it? If you tried to belt out some complex, fast song after hearing it just once, you'd butcher it. You'd mess up the tempo, the pitch, the timing.
Totally.
And you wouldn't blame yourself for being, fundamentally untalented at singing. You just know, okay, I need to listen to the song way more times to really get it.
Right. You need to internalize the melody first.
And that's the psychological permission slip, really. It justifies that initial, often silent listening phase. Your brain is busy internalizing the melody and the structure of the language song.
Okay.
So when you finally do try to sing or speak, the underlying patterns are already kind of familiar. You have this internal map of how it should sound, how it should feel. Without tons of input first, any attempt at speaking is likely to feel halting, forced, disconnected from that natural flow.
So the silent work, the diligent listening, it's actually the essential prep work for speaking well later.
It's the prerequisite, absolutely.
It also means maybe, if you're struggling right now to speak fluently, the first answer isn't always more grammar drills. It might just be you need to radically increase your listening input.
Could be. You just haven't internalized the song enough yet.
Yeah.
And this actually leads to a really useful intermediate technique, kind of a bridge between just passive listening and starting to speak yourself. It's called shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, what does the source say about that?
Shadowing is basically repeating what someone is saying immediately after they say it. You try to keep pace with them as closely as you can, often using the same podcast or video you're already listening to.
Oh, okay.
It demands really deep active engagement. You're not necessarily focused on understanding every word's meaning. You're trying to physically mimic the speaker's rhythm, their intonation, their speed.
So it's like, Linguistic karaoke almost. You're copying the performance.
Kind of, yeah. You're using all that input you've absorbed and you're turning it into motor practice for your mouth, your tongue, your throat muscles, but in a very low-pressure way.
You're feeling the words.
Exactly. You're forcing yourself to actually feel the shapes of the words in your mouth. You know, lots of sounds are easy to say by themselves, but they become physically tricky when they're crammed together at native speed and rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Shadowing builds the muscle memory for those tough transitions. It's taking the pattern recognition your ears learned and transferring it to your speech muscles. It's a really crucial step before you're ready to start generating your own original sentences confidently.
Okay, so once that foundation is laid, lots of input, starting to get the rhythm through listening and maybe shadowing, then we have to talk about output, actually producing the language.
The scary part for many.
Totally. This is section 3, and it tackles that huge emotional hurdle, speaking. Tip 3 is blunt. Speak every single day.
And this is where we hit that speaking barrier head on. So many learners fall into this trap, this perfectionism trap, waiting for the perfect time, you know, or waiting until they have perfect knowledge before they dare open their mouths, thinking, oh, I can't possibly say anything until I've completely mastered, like, reported speech.
Right. I'll just study a bit more first.
Exactly. And the source material just cuts through that. No waiting. Start now. Doesn't matter how ready you feel, just start.
And the guide makes this really critical distinction, one that self-learners absolutely have to internalize. Fluency doesn't come mostly from studying rules.
No, that's not the driver.
It comes directly, almost exclusively, from the act of speaking.
Yeah. Studying gives you the map, right? The knowledge map. But speaking is what gives you the actual ability, the physical and cognitive skill, to navigate that map smoothly, automatically, without having to stop and think about every turn.
That's a great analogy, like driving a car.
Exactly like driving. You can read the entire driver's manual, memorize every single traffic law, but until you actually spend hours behind the wheel, practicing shifting gears, checking your mirrors constantly, learning to judge distances instinctively, you're going to be terrified and jerky when you drive.
For sure.
Speaking is a physical skill as much as a mental one. Your mouth needs the workout. And the sources recognize that the biggest thing stopping people from starting is often pressure, fear of judgment, or just not having someone patient to practice with.
Right. Who do I talk to?
And what's brilliant is how the sources pivot. They recommend these really high impact, but totally zero pressure ways to practice speaking. Things you can do immediately, even if you're completely alone.
Okay, practical, solitary methods. Like it. What are they?
Well, the guide strongly advises things like talking to yourself in the mirror, describing your day out loud as it happens or afterwards, and repeating or mimicking lines from movies, shows, podcasts, building on that shadowing idea.
Let's dig into those a bit. Talking to the mirror. That sounds kind of weird, but also maybe effective. It feels vulnerable.
It does. It's surprisingly challenging, but yeah, effective. Yeah. Because it forces you to use the language while you're also seeing yourself do it. Seeing your own facial expressions, how your mouth moves. Why is seeing yourself so important?
Gotcha.
It creates this complete feedback loop, even though it's just you. You're practicing the physical side of communication, how your lips form the sounds, how wide your jaw needs to open for certain vowels, where you're naturally putting emphasis. Seeing the mechanics reinforces what you hear yourself saying.
Okay.
And honestly, it's a confidence builder too. You just get more comfortable watching yourself make these foreign noises. It normalizes it.
Okay, that makes sense. And then describing your day out loud. That seems like taking the internal monologue we talked about earlier, just making it external.
That's exactly what it is. And that's where fluency really gets built.
How so?
Yeah.
What does making it external do?
It forces instant retrieval under a tiny bit of self-imposed pressure. If you just think, oh, I need to go to the store, the thought can stay vague, grammatically simple.
Right?
But if you actually say out loud, okay, I really have to quickly drive down to that little grocery store on Elm Street later to pick up some milk, boom, you're forced to find the right modal verb, have to, the adverbs, quickly later, the adjectives, the specific prepositions, down to, on, up.
You have to construct the whole sentence properly.
Yes, this immediate high volume activation of different structures is what makes them become fluent and automatic over time. You're practicing assembly.
Got it. And then there's repeating lines from media. We touched on that with shadowing, but this sounds more like performance.
Yeah, it's taking it a step further. When you repeat a whole line from a movie character you like, you're not just mimicking sounds, you're practicing the intonation, the emotion, the delivery.
Like performance aspect.
You're practicing acting like a native speaker in terms of the musicality, the stress patterns. You're layering all that listening input you got onto your own speech muscles. You're focused on conveying the feeling behind the words, not just getting the grammar technically right.
Okay. And then the guide highlights this other technique, the real power of self-correction, recording yourself speaking and listening back.
Yes. This is huge. The guide says you'll likely be shocked by how quickly you improve doing this. And the reason why is tied directly to how our brains learn.
How does it work?
Listening back to your own voice gives you immediate, objective feedback. Feedback that maybe a teacher could give you, but probably hours or days later.
Okay, but why is hearing myself on recording so much more powerful than, say, a teacher correcting me later?
It's about closing the loop instantly between the motor action and the auditory feedback.
Okay.
When a teacher corrects an error you made 2 hours ago, the connection in your brain between the mouth muscles that made the mistake and the ear that perceived it, that pathway has gone cold. But when you record yourself and listen back right away, the memory of making the sound is fresh, the error is fresh, and the corrective data hearing the mistake gets wired immediately back to the motor system that just produced it.
Instant replay for your brain.
Pretty much. That immediate connection builds new neural pathways for correction way more efficiently than delayed feedback ever could. It rapidly boosts your self-awareness of your own speech patterns and helps you fix things autonomously.
Yeah, okay. So we've gone from passive input, listening, to active output. Even if it's just talking to the walls or your phone recorder, we're gradually lowering the pressure.
Exactly. Which leads us perfectly into the final crucial piece, the psychology of it all. And this brings us to the last section, which you could argue is the most important one, because all these techniques, the listening, the talking, the lifestyle tweaks, they're all going to fall apart if the learner doesn't have the right mindset and a way to stay consistent.
Right. The engine behind it all.
Tips 5 and 6 really tackle these psychological barriers directly.
Okay, let's start with tip 5, the truth about mistakes. The sources are really upfront about this, addressing that fear learners have.
Yeah.
You will make mistakes, a lot of them, every single day.
Yeah, no sugarcoating it.
And that fear of sounding stupid or foolish, that's probably the #1 reason people just give up.
It is absolutely the single biggest thing holding people back from fluency. Culturally, especially if you came up through formal schooling, we're just trained to see mistakes as failure, as proof you're not good enough.
Bad grades, red marks.
Exactly. But the sources insist on this crucial, almost radical mindset shift. They state it really powerfully. Mistakes are not failure. They are feedback.
Oh, I love that reframe. Feedback. It just instantly takes the judgment out of it, doesn't it? Makes it technical, neutral, like checking gauge on a machine.
Totally. The source emphasizes that every single error you make, that's a high-value clue. It shows you precisely where you need to focus next, where you need to grow.
Like a little signpost?
Exactly. And what does a clue do? It guides you towards the answer. It doesn't punish you, it informs you. If you realize, oops, I used the wrong article there, or, that preposition doesn't sound right describing my day, That mistake is literally pointing you towards the one specific little grammar point you might need to review for like 2 minutes.
Not hours of study, just a quick check.
Right. So the suggested emotional reaction, this is basically cognitive restructuring in action. The guide advises the next time you catch yourself making a mistake or someone points one out, smile.
Smile.
Because, as the guide says, you just learned something new.
Wow, that takes practice, I imagine. But it's powerful.
It's high-level psychological jujitsu for learning. By consciously choosing to smile, you're attaching a positive emotional tag, a little mini celebration, to something that usually causes anxiety.
Right.
And we know the brain learns best when stress is low. Fear triggers the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, and that tends to shut down the prefrontal cortex, the thinking, analyzing part of your brain.
So smiling keeps the thinking part online.
Basically, yes, you're telling your emotional brain, it's okay, this isn't danger, this is learning. You keep the cognitive channels open so you can actually analyze the feedback, the clue, constructively. It makes learning faster because it encourages you to take risks, to produce more language. If mistakes are good, you actually want more of them.
Huh. That's a fantastic paradox. The fastest way to improve is to maximize your feedback, which means maximizing your mistakes.
The sources basically give you full permission to be gloriously imperfect, which is absolutely necessary if you want to build any kind of momentum.
Okay, permission granted. Be imperfect.
And once you kind of embrace that imperfection, then we tackle the other vital ingredient for long-term success: consistency. But consistency driven by enjoyment. That's tip 6.
Ah, the fun factor. The sources are unequivocal here. Learning should not feel like punishment.
Not at all.
Because that feeling, that dread, is the #1 killer of consistency. If it feels like a daily grind you hate, you will quit eventually.
Yeah.
Willpower only lasts so long.
The science is super clear on this. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. If learning English is always associated with miserable, intense effort, like forcing yourself through boring vocab lists or super complex grammar charts you don't understand, your motivation is just going to evaporate. Consistency isn't really achieved through brute willpower. It's achieved through positive reinforcement, through enjoyment.
And the sources give great examples of this, specific, fun ways to keep yourself engaged. And they tie right back into that lifestyle integration idea.
Exactly.
They talk about watching stuff you genuinely love anyway, playing video games in English, singing along to English songs you like, following YouTubers who actually make you laugh.
If your main source of English input comes from things that genuinely entertain you, whether that's a silly game, a hilarious creator, a gripping TV show, you'll naturally seek it out. You'll often end up practicing more than any schedule you tried to force on yourself.
You're basically tricking your brain into doing the hard work.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because the main driver is pleasure, not I have to study now.
Singing English songs seems particularly potent. Can we elaborate on why that's more than just fun? What are the specific learning benefits there?
Oh, singing is like the ultimate integration tool for rhythm and sound. First, yes, the melody helps vocabulary and sentence structure stick in your memory. That's well known.
Okay.
But more than that, singing forces you to hit the pronunciation points, the stress, the rhythm with precision. You can't really sing a song completely out of time, right? Or pronounce a word so badly it throws off the beat.
True. It sounds wrong immediately.
Exactly. So it's this structured, rhythmic workout for your mouth muscles. It makes you practice connected speech, often at native speed, without even thinking about it as practice.
It's pronunciation drilling disguised as fun.
Perfectly put. And the ultimate goal here is just crystal clear. The more fun you're having, the longer you'll stick with it. And the more consistently you'll stick with it.
And consistency, not necessarily intensity on any given day, is what the source material says is the absolute master key.
Absolutely. A learner who does, say, 15 minutes of enjoyable integrated English stuff every single day, changes their phone settings, narrates watching the dishes, sings along to one song. That person will absolutely outperform someone who tries to cram in a miserable 3-hour grammar session just once every couple of weeks. That daily, low-friction, enjoyable effort wins every single time.
So this whole deep dive, it really shows us the path to fluency isn't about achieving perfection or enduring pain.
No.
It's about building these sustainable, hopefully enjoyable habits.
Yeah.
And backing them up with these crucial mindset shifts. Weave the language into your life for consistency and reframe those inevitable errors as essential feedback, which gives you the courage to keep going. Hashtag OTRO.
So if we kind of pull it all together, synthesize the main findings from this really practical guide, the big conclusion is actually super encouraging for anyone learning on their own.
Yeah.
Success in mastering English at home, it doesn't require fancy, expensive classes necessarily, or perfect grammar textbooks cover to cover, or even a trip abroad, though that helps. What it really requires are these structural changes to your daily life, your digital world, your inner self-talk. And maybe most importantly, a fundamental shift in how you view those moments where you stumble.
We've learned you absolutely have to listen a lot to really internalize the rhythm, the music of the language, like that song analogy.
Get the song in your head.
You have to speak every day, even if it's just talking to yourself, to build up that muscle memory, that fluency in actually producing the sounds.
Build the motor skills.
And you absolutely have to embrace mistakes, see them as valuable clues, immediate feedback, not something to be ashamed of.
Smile at them.
Smile at the mistakes. Tying it all together, it seems like the three essential ingredients are consistency, just showing up every day in some small way.
Massive exposure, flooding your environment and your ears.
And yeah, just a little bit of courage each day.
Psychological courage, yeah.
Yeah.
The courage to actually speak out loud, even if it feels weird at first. The courage to change your phone language, even if it's confusing for a day or two. And the courage to just smile when you mess up, acknowledge you learned something, and move on.
This framework really gives us concrete, detailed steps, ways to get beyond just passively consuming English and start actively living with it.
And that leads right into the final kind of provocative thought the guide leaves us with. When you stop treating English like this external thing, this subject you have to pick up and put down, and you start weaving it into your self-talk, the media you consume, your daily surroundings, the source material promises this really profound shift happens. Make English a part of your lifestyle, and slowly it'll become part of you. So the question for you, the listener, to maybe mull over is, what amazing possibilities open up when the language isn't just a tool you use sometimes, but it's fully integrated, when it becomes part of your identity, part of how you naturally express your thoughts, your humor, your personality every single day. What does your world look like when using English is no longer a conscious effort, but just an effortless extension of who you are?
Something to think about. Keep learning, definitely keep speaking, and yeah, keep smiling at those mistakes. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.